What's up, everybody? So we have a 2006-2007 Gsxr 600 750 frame with a '08 plus motor in it. So this customer put '08 throttle bodies and harness on it. It is not starting. There's a lot of different connectors, stuff like that. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to remove the harness, and then we're also going to do a full harness replacement. And then I'm going to do a couple other videos for the throttle bodies and the airbox, and also put those in the description for you. So if you are trying to figure out how to do any of those, stay tuned. And yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so the tail is basically off. There's a big relay that goes under here. To get that out, there's a 10 millimeter. You just take the 10 mil out. This bracket then comes out. You have to disconnect your harness up there from your tail light, your blinkers, stuff like that. And then your ECU will be down here. You just take the ECU out, take the bracket off, blah, blah, blah. So once you're here, definitely disconnect your battery. It's very important. You don't want to blow anything up. And then we'll get to the front. Okay, so now we're going to get into the actual harness. So we can start with the throttle bodies, assuming your airbox is already off. These ones up top, they just slip off. Some of them. For the bottom, I always use needle noses because these are a pain in the ass. So the bottom ones, I stick the needle noses in this way and bring it out. Be careful with the wires. You just bring it out one at a time. Okay, once you have those off, I usually take this rubber off, take the sensor off, get that out of the way. Be careful with this. And then start putting everything to the side so there's not a lot of stuff. Okay. Then you're going to start doing your kickstand sensor, things like that. Ground. All of these other connectors. Another word of advice is to get a pick for some of these. You can stick them inside and then pry up to get these connectors if you can't get them off. Sometimes they're a pain. Like that. So usually when I stop talking, or when I start talking, I'll lower the music.
Gotcha.
And then when I'm working, I'll just play music and then just silence it.
Makes sense. Just maybe turn up the music next time.
Yeah, for that one guy. Fuck that guy.
Fucking pendejo.
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 Okay, so while you have all these wires everywhere, it's probably easier to get the throttle bodies out of the way. So you actually go into that area, and there's going to be small little Allens that you just loosen. It loosens the clamps, and then you basically take the fuel rail in the back and then wiggle it out. So this one might be loose enough. No, it's not. So we're going to loosen the clamps. Again, they're just little Allens on both sides, and then get those out. All right, so we loosened those. Let's get these out. They are kind of hard to get out, so be careful. Try not to break anything. Once you have it out, you can start getting these other connectors off. TPS, blah, blah, blah. The only thing that is holding this in are your throttle cables. So, well, this one's an '08, so this is going to have a connector here too. You can just put these up to the side for now, since we're just doing the harness. I'm going to disconnect them since this video is for the harness. That way you guys can see the rest. So let me get that and then we'll go from there. Alright, so anytime your motor is exposed and you're working around it, anytime these valves are open, you're going to take some towel, plug those up. Because if you drop something in there, it is a pain in the ass to get out. I've done it before. I've dropped a small bolt. It took me like 2 hours. And you don't want to damage the valves either. So plug those up, make sure that's good, and then we'll start with the other wires here. We don't have too much left. Looks like we got the starter relay. You can either do it here, so you can unplug it here, and this connects to the starter. Since we're actually going to be utilizing this again, we're going to leave this onto the starter, leave that hanging. Let's see. The whole rest of the harness is basically up here. So I'm going to bring you guys around the other side and show you, and we'll start unplugging this stuff. Okay, so down here you have your temp sensor. This one you just press down. It's kind of a pain sometimes. I might have to go to the other side. Nope, got it. Okay, the one that most people break and mess up is this one right here. I've done it many times in the past. So I'm going to show you guys how I get this off. These are a pain in the ass. So I grab a pick that's straight, and then I stick it in through the top. I push it in as far as I can to where it's not going to break. Push up. This one's kind of bent. Push up and pull out, and it'll come out together. Most people, they can't get that off. They end up pulling it, and this comes out of the connector or something like that. So that is the one that is the hardest to get off right there, 100%. But that's the trick. Stick it in through the top. While you pry it this way, pull back. So all we have left are the ignition coils. So you're just going to grab them like that. These are very easy to get off. Nothing crazy. So let's see. Well, sometimes they're easy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Harness will pop up a little bit. So this one is an 08, so it's going to have this. You don't have to worry about that. You have your ignition here, this big gray one. Sometimes these ones are really hard to get off too. I use a screwdriver or a pick. There we go. Then you also have your pair valve up here. Okay, so what I usually do is I stick a screwdriver on the side here so I can pry it, and then I press down at the same time just a little bit to get it off, then it comes off. That one's the second hardest. A lot of times that won't come off either very easily, but that's how you do that. And then we have our rectifier, which is here. Well, this top sensor. Then we also have our rectifier and such. So get these off. Nothing crazy. And then you also have your front harness that goes up to your speedometer. So basically just unplug this stuff. You also have your fan. It's the same thing all around. Just go to that, grab the tab, pull it off. Let's see. After that, I think we have pretty much everything. The horn piece just slides off the actual horn. So you just pull it off, nothing crazy. All right. So unplug the front harness as well, headlight harness, and then we have our stator and rectifier. This is what that looks like. There's another one that connects to it. It looks like this. This one's also a pain. If they are burnt, you're going to have to cut them and replace the connector. Some of you might be replacing the harness because of that, this burnt stator. So if so, you already know. If not, it's not a big deal. Okay, and then the horn just slides off. And when you start to pull this, don't pull too hard. You just want to pull it lightly to make sure everything's coming off in one piece. And bam, we have the whole harness off. So let's get the new harness and start to install that. Alright, so first thing I do when I install a harness is I get everything lined up. So we know this goes to this side. Harness goes to that side over there. You can actually find these. It goes into the frame. There's a little tab that's on the frame. So you just want to get them lined up basically. So we got coils here and then injectors here, both sets. So you kind of want to place it where you know it's going to be. I like to put this tab into the frame right away because then it lets me align everything as it needs to be. All this stuff up front, the ignition, the yellow, and this, they usually go through under the frame. But I connect them here. It's kind of a pain. Connect them up front first and then run it through. So connect all three. 1, 2, and then the yellow one to the yellow. You know what? I'm gonna feed this behind and then go to the other side of the radiator. So your front harness, the thing is you don't want anything sticking up too far because it'll get in the way of the throttle bodies and such. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'll just go back. We can go forward with this. So this goes through, above the radiator, below the frame. And that comes up. This piece, there's already one on here, so we'll take this off. That goes into the top where the pair valve is. So this goes here, clips in. This is a relay that goes to the top of the airbox, actually. Let's see. So these two stick here, like that. Yellow goes to the yellow one. To that. Okay. Then you start plugging in your coils. 1, 2, and the reason why we line everything up is because it fits exact. So you know you're not going to have any of these backwards. So 1, 2. This can only fit here, that can't fit over there. 3. This sensor here. And then you got your horn. So I bring this middle one up through the middle. Somebody routed that wrong, that's okay. And then we have, let's see here, the rectifier and the stator connector right there. Okay. Horn goes through. That's straightforward. We'll get to that one after. Those two there. Fan, again, everything's routed the way it should be. We'll plug in the fan last. And then green goes to your temp sensor. You want to do that before the throttle bodies. Alright, so this is how you route these. ECU side goes to the right side of the bike. I just put it on backwards like an idiot and then remembered. I thought I knew Gsxrs, but apparently not. So this sits here. The tail goes all the way up. So you just bring this up and through. Okay. Then you have your starter relay side. This sits here, goes under the tabs for the tank, goes into the frame. This comes up and then under that. So now you have your sensor here and your fuse box there. This sits like that. Your sensor goes onto this tab here, and then this runs up to the side. So ECU, your diag, everything goes right there. And then your starter relay will actually run up and then sit up there. So we need to connect the sensor into this, and then also here. But this just basically runs up and then sits there. So there's that. This goes to the battery side, obviously. The ground cable will actually sit there. There's supposed to be a tab on that to stick in there, but it's not there. We have two starter relays as well. I'm going to use the one that's already connected to the starter and take this one off. Alright, so before we put the throttle bodies on, I'm also going to make a separate video on that, but since this is a whole video, what I'm going to do is make a separate video on how to install the throttle bodies in to the boots, and then I'm going to skip in this video straight to the install of the harness. But essentially this just aligns here. The other thing we're going to have to do on this one is replace the temp sensor, because that's actually a different connector than the 0607, but this is all generally the same. So back here you have your brake sensor, plugs in, and then your sprocket speed sensor is this big white one here. You can kind of tell which ones are which. They usually have the same colors, so that's pretty straightforward. Your ground is this one. So this piece of harness, this is your kickstand sensor, your ground. So that plugs in there. Your kickstand sensor here. A lot of people delete this because they do go bad on Gsxrs. You'll get bogging, stuff like that. So that's plugged in. The little one that we were showing you. And looks like we just got a couple more down here. So nothing crazy. There's that one. Oh, I don't think, nope, that one goes to another one. So we're gonna remove this temp sensor, put the real one on, or the right one, not the real one. And then we're going to get the throttle bodies on and skip up to that part. Alright, so on the throttle bodies, the easiest way I always do this is I connect the connectors first. So, and these are, we're talking about the hard ones. So you have this one down here that goes on. And this makes your life a lot easier when these throttle bodies are sunk in, because trying to get your hands down there sucks. So put your TPS, put all that on first. Those two are like the most important. You can leave everything else. This is routed under. So then you're going to position your throttle bodies. Okay, so once you have all that hooked up, hook up the TPS, all that stuff. These are your injector wires here. So you can either do the bottom or the top first. But basically you want to go under everything, and then these are matching. So you can see here these would be first, second, third, fourth. So the longer one obviously goes up top. I usually do the bottom ones first. That way you can basically get them out of the way and you're not trying to reach under things that are installed after. So get those up. Sometimes you have to turn the injectors a little bit sideways. They do move this way to get them to fit. And then they just press in. Make sure you hear the click. You should be good to go. So same thing. One, two. Plug in the temp sensor while we're down there. Okay. And then oil sensor. And again, same exact thing here. Oh. Under. Okay, so basically this goes up to your sensor. There's a lot of stuff that could be in the way, so just kind of move them around. If you can't get this up, the easiest way to do it, take that off, plug it in, come back, push that down. This goes down as well. black one goes in here. Speed sensor, 3-prong. Then you have this. I usually run this through here. Your fuel tank hooks up to this one. So this goes there. That bottom one is for your fuel tank here. So double check you have everything put together. Look for loose connectors. We should have everything good. Again, these 3 up here are for the air box. So that sits there. That's for the air box. Ground, everything's hooked up here. So we are good to go. Brake sensor, all of that. So the only thing left is this loose one for the tank, that for the tank, these for the air box. Good to go. Make sure your bolts are tightened on your throttle bodies as well. Okay, so we plug this into starter relay. And then your tip sensor goes back here in the back. So make sure this cable comes back here. Your tip sensor does go, usually it's sitting inside this. We can take this off, put it on. Try not to break that plastic. So yours should look like this. And then that sits like that. Okay, so some of you may have your servo motor here. This one's deleted. If it's not, then you can delete it. I'll make another video on that once I have a bike with the servo. But this is a servo delete. This just plugs in and deletes that. You can also pull wire on your ECU, but since he has this, that's going in there already. So we're good to go on that. Blinkers and brake light. Brake light obviously gets connected, but these sit back here, so you're good to go. Okay, so on the tail, your tail light, this comes through the bottom here, connects there. And then your blinkers come through the sides, through these slits here. So one on each side, and then you connect those up. And you should be good to go. 1, 2. Boom, this all just gets tucked in there, and that's how you do that. All right, so that's basically how you swap the harness. Other than that, everything's straightforward. This goes here, just like that. Your ECU will drop down in there. Make sure if you are doing the airbox, this, and this go up here. So these sit like that, and then they go on top of the airbox, and this goes right in the middle on top. So theoretically, if you plugged everything in correctly, you should be good to go. And that's a full wire harness swap on a 06, 07 Gsxr 600 and 750. They are the same thing.